Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, starring Mike Myers, Heather Graham, Michael York, Robert Wagner, Rob Lowe, Seth Green, Mindy Sterling, Vern Troyer, and Elizabeth Hurley, and directed by Jay Roach. Now, before I get into this review, I remember seeing this in movie theaters back in 1999, same year as Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. And what did I think of it? I don't remember, honestly. But I'll give you some better memories for when I get to next week's movie. But let's get into this movie, shall we? The opening, like Star Wars opens, did crack me up as Dr. Evil, returned by Mike Myers, escapes the big boy statue. Meanwhile, Austin Powers, also returned by Mike Myers, is in the honeymoon suite with his wife, Vanessa, returned by Elizabeth Hurley, briefly. And the reason I say that is because Vanessa is a Feebot from the last movie, which is a female robot. And as soon as Austin finds out he's single again, and dances as the opening credits, which is a fun, but it's funny because he celebrates the truth that he's no longer married. And I got a kick out of that, honestly. Not that I've ever been married before, but you get the point. Scott Evil, returned by Seth Green, is on Jerry Springer. And Dr. Evil humiliates Scott and curses on national television, which I remember that most from seeing the movie in theaters. Like, honestly, it was that funny. Austin meets Rebecca Romijn and Ivana Humpera, and that is her name, and takes pictures of them, which was a nice cameo by Rebecca Romijn. Dr. Evil has a headquarters in the Starbucks Tower in Seattle, and number 2, returned by Robert Wagner, is back on Dr. Evil's side. And how is that possible? I don't think that matters, honestly. Does it? Nah, not really. Back on his side is Frau Forbissina, forgive me if I said that wrong, returned by Mindy Sterling, and her lover, Mottlebrow, as well as a clone of himself called, and let me do the best I can with this, Mini-Me, played by Vern Troyer. And I love the hell out of this character as he, with Dr. Evil, travel back to 1969 to steal Austin's mojo while he meets a younger number 2, played by Rob Lowe, and Austin loses his mojo as Fat Busted, played by Mike Myers, takes it away from Austin, which is a classic MacGuffin cliche. Basil Exposition, returned by Michael York, sends Austin back to his pad, in 1969, as we find he's working with Felicity Shagwell, who's a spy and played by Heather Graham, which makes it 2 for 2 on the attractive actresses. But is she good as Elizabeth Hurley? Honestly, not really. She's fine at best as far as the acting goes. Dr. Evil drinks a small amount of Austin's mojo, which I thought was sick, as Austin and Felicity go tour around London as Dr. Evil and Frau sleep together. And the next day, Scott tries to talk things out with his father, but chooses Mini-Me over him, which isn't realistic, but it's a comedy, so I'll let it go. But what I won't let go is how Austin didn't see how Fat Busted got his mojo, which is dumb in some weird way. Dr. Evil's plan is to destroy Washington, D.C., which is another Star Wars cliche, like a Death Star kind of a way, but it's hilarious when Scott calls him Darth as it's a ripoff, and Austin drinks Fat Bastard's dump as coffee, and that made me sick, and I think okay, let's move on. And Dr. Evil asks the President of the United States for $100 billion, or else DC will explode like the White House in Independence Day. And I do like that callback, as he'll make references to that in Jerry Maguire, which will be shown 30 years later in the 1969 neighborhood. But it was funny that they brought it up before the 1990s, I'll say. Some of Dr. Evil's henchmen watch in the tent, and they get the wrong idea as they think Felicity is getting things out of Austin's ass, when really she's getting them out of the bag. And they get captured and taken to Dr. Evil's volcano, and shows Austin his mojo, which was totally inappropriate funny. Dr. Evil and Mini-Me go up to the moon with Austin's mojo in a rocket. Austin and Felicity do eventually escape as Dr. Evil and Mini-Me arrive at his moon base, and Austin and Felicity get a rocket ride to the moon and arrive, and Mini-Me fights Austin, which is hysterical, especially Austin dumping Mini-Me into space, and Dr. Evil kills Felicity briefly, and I'll explain why in a sec, and goes after him and does the "I am your father" Star Wars cliche. And Austin goes back to 10 minutes ago, so both the laser and to DC misses, and Felicity is saved, and Dr. Evil drops his mojo, but realizes he had it all along, and they go back to 1999 as they beat up Fat Boston, which is a hilarious climax in my opinion. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.0 out of 10. Not quite as good as the original, but I think it's funny in an inappropriate way like the first film, but not as much as the first film. And I love the character of Mini-Me as he's a fun presence. Based on the rating, I'm a little nervous for next week because I remember really enjoying that one the most, but we'll see next week. So I will be back next week with Austin Powers and Goldmember, and until next time, yeah baby, yeah!